Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we're going to be talking about a little bit of news, but mostly going over and covering all the action that happened this weekend in a pretty wild major one. I'd say a pretty unpredictable one. I don't think a lot of people out there probably had the Surge versus NYSL final picked kind of out of the blue, but it was definitely an exciting tournament. Some crazy results. Probably a lot of teams getting eliminated maybe earlier than we thought they would, and some teams making further runs, aka Legion, than maybe some people thought they would. And overall, just got a little bit of a better look at what this year might look like in terms of where teams are at, and also maybe even muddy the water more, and we're even more confused by who the heck teams are based on some of the results. So before we get into that, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed. We had some crazy support, almost 2,000 listens on the last one on YouTube, and bunch of new subscribers. We hit the 800 subscriber mark, so thank you guys so much for that. Now we're on the road to 900. That's our next goal. So if you can help us get there, that would be greatly appreciated. We've appreciated all the support since the year started. Before we dive into news, Brock, how you doing today?
Oh, we're doing very well for this fine Monday evening, I should say. Pretty cold in Wisconsin, like always during this time. Watching great Call of Duty this weekend. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it was a pretty good event. I was witnessing history on Saturday, so I didn't get to see a lot of the Friday and Saturday matches. Had to catch up on like quick rundowns because I was at the Colts Vikings game. Thought it was gonna be pretty boring. I could pull up my phone to watch some COD at that rate because everybody in the stadium was leaving when it was 33-0 at halftime, and then the Colts blew the biggest lead in NFL history. So I got to witness some crazy history as well this weekend. Um, at the Colts Vikings game, maybe not in the way I wanted to see it, but I missed some of the matches on Saturday, and then Friday I was driving over to Minnesota, so I didn't get to catch a lot on that, but I caught pretty much all of Thursday and all of Sunday, and then kind of reviewed a lot of the stuff from Friday and Saturday. So I don't have as much in-depth thoughts on that, but got a lot of stats in front of me, and I'm ready to talk about teams. But first, we got like a little bit of news, just like a short bit to go through, and then we're gonna spend the rest of the podcast talking about the teams and going one by one through their event. First thing I saw was a ranked play leak. I don't remember exactly. I'll have to pull it up here. I don't remember 100% who the leaker was. I want to give him credit, but I saw the Ghost of Hope like quote tweeted it because I didn't recognize the leaker. His name was like, it's like Task Force Leakers 141, and the ad is Task Force COD W. And it was like a little 20-second video, and it basically looked like ranked play from Vanguard with like some slight tweaks, maybe like more skill divisions, like a million of them, in fact, like 7 tiers. There was like SR, so it basically looked like a good ranked play because it has an elo system, which is all we want. But Ghost of Hope thinks it could be coming out with season 2 at launch or in like mid season, and he says it's a much innovated and improved version of ranked play in Vanguard. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm also excited for that. I hope it comes at the start of season 2, which I really don't know when that is, but probably later January, I would say.
Yeah, I think the battle pass ends in like a month-ish. So I would think, yeah, that would mean like late January, early February. But also like we know with Call of Duty with Activision, when they think that they give us a window, it's never going to be in the early part of that window. They're always going to wait till the last minute, or they'll tell us it comes out like January 20th, and then it'll get delayed a day before.
Yeah, add a couple weeks onto it, just like the CDL Mosh Pit mode.
Yeah, whenever they tell you a date of something, just like plan to have it like 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
Activision. But I'm excited if it's like an upgraded version.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, Vanguard rank was pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, and like when we say pretty good, it has nothing to do with the game. It's like independent of the game. The actual system itself, like in terms of like rank play systems, Vanguard's was one of the best for. I mean, in terms of like all games, probably pretty average. But in terms of Call of Duty ranked systems, maybe the best. Only one that would rival it would be like World War II's, because that was the only other elo system we had. The one thing I don't think it's in this game. The one thing I want them to do, I want them to bring it back in Black Ops 2, but upgrade it. I want them to bring back the team rank.
Yeah, that was so fun. Just you're all grinding for a certain rank as a team, not as individual.
And like, I think it's more fun because like, yeah, like you can like kill whore and like play for stats, and like there is like a factor where like if you have really good stats, it helps your SR. You might not lose as much, or you might gain more. But like when you were playing, it also helped because like a lot of times you and I, like if we're playing with a couple of our friends, we have to hop on like a burner account because our SR is too high.
Yeah.
to play. So like that's no fun. But if you could create like a team with all your friends, depending on the four you're playing with, you'd never have to worry about hopping on other accounts. You'd all have the shared elo.
hmm
And I feel like it also makes it a little more fun to grind for because like you're all just playing absolutely for the win because there's no such thing as individual stats like affecting your SR because it's a team SR.
Yeah.
So I
I
want them
would
to bring
honestly
that
prefer
back.
that.
I prefer it too. I want them to bring it back because it's also like I don't know something about like the team aspect of it feels more rewarding to me.
hmm
Like if you win like with your team and increase everybody's elo, it just feels more rewarding and more fun to me personally.
Yeah, it's like if you're all, let's say one person's one game away from ranking up, but me and you are not. Well, that's like not that fun. Like
Yeah,
we could just like throw the game, like even though we don't really know it.
yeah. Or like when you're in a team SR rank, like yeah, like it makes that game much more intense and exciting when like if let's say like the rank up is at 2500 SR and we're at like 2487 going into that game. Like we all know that this is a rank up game, so you're gonna go a little extra hard and it's gonna be a little more fun.
hmm
Because like it's a little makes the game a little more intense. It's like, oh, this is a rank up game, boys, and like everybody's gonna tee up for it. And it's a little more hype when you like rank up because you're all going for that next tier together.
Yep.
I don't know. It just brings that like team sports aspect of it. That I mean, the reason a lot of us love playing team sports or any of that stuff, soccer, baseball, football, basketball, whatever you're playing, it makes it just that's why everybody loves team sports.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like that similar feeling in a way.
That'd be dope if they brought it back somehow.
Yeah. Couple things with major four type news. I'm gonna go a little out of order from what we wrote down for our news here, but Priesta joined some elite company this weekend. Obviously, we are going to talk about New York a lot more, so don't want to spend a lot of time on this now. But Priesta became one of very few players to now have a tournament win on 5 different titles. That is like absurd when you actually think about it.
This.
Um, Other players, I mean, think about this, is ridiculous. Scump has a title on or a tournament win on 10 different titles. That's the most. Krim has on 8 different Call of Duty titles. When we say that, obviously that means like different games. So like Ghost, Black Ops 2, MW. Krim has won on 8 different games. Scump on 10. Karma, Formal, and JCap have won on 6. And then Priesta joined the company of Aches, Brock's favorite player, John, Slasher, Clay, Octane, and
I don't know,
Priesta.
John.
So all those guys have won on 5 titles. So I mean,
Jeez.
when you're being mentioned with Scump, Krim, even though it's not the same amount of titles, but like the players that are at 5 with him, Aches, John, Slasher, Clay, Octane, a lot of the all-time greats.
hmm
One thing that's interesting on this list, Priesta, the only one on this entire list of 5+ titles won on without a ring.
Yeah, that is
Everybody else
true.
has one or more rings on that entire list now that Octane has one. So that's
Yeah,
very interesting. Maybe that means he's going to join the club this year and
never
get a
know.
ring.
You just never know with that theme.
But great stuff from Priesta. We'll talk about Priesta a little more when we get to
Yeah,
talking about New York because he deserves some respect on his name for the struggles he's had the last few years. People have been talking down on him, including basically us and everyone because he hasn't been playing as well. But he showed out this weekend. But we'll talk about him more when we get to New York.
hmm
Um,
definitely.
Viewership wise, this weekend we peaked at about 160,000 and had an average of 112K. If you compare it to Major One last year, which was the OpTic Major and one that OpTic won. So obviously, I mean, it's no secret OpTic pulls in the most viewership always. So to see that the peak was about the exact same, but the average was about 42,000 viewers higher because the average last year was 70K with about that 160K peak. So the average is about 42,000 more viewers, which is a positive thing to me because when you think about it, OpTic won that major last year. So obviously, like I'm assuming the peak viewership was probably OpTic in the finals,
Yeah.
or maybe when OpTic was playing Faze and they knocked them or whatever. Like probably one of those series. And then this year, OpTic didn't even make it to bracket play, but the peak was still the same and had a higher average. That's a good sign for me, I would say.
Yes, some of that's the team branding's going pretty good for other teams, other outside Optic and Faze, LAT and all that.
Yeah, starting to see some more fan bases. I think it also they actually gave us good viewership rewards for once.
Yeah.
Like you get a lot of double weapon XP tokens for watching, which um incentivizes people that maybe would never even watch like multiplayer COD like Warzone people. This
hmm
double weapon XP can level up their weapons for Warzone, so they might be tuning in just to get those tokens. So like
Definitely.
it's kind of like what I know a lot of people that are listening probably don't do this, but like Madden does that. Like on the competitive Madden streams, they do drops, and you can earn tokens to like get players. in their Ultimate Team mode, which is like a pretty dumbed down version, basically like of what they do. But it like competitive Madden usually doesn't have that much viewership. Like maybe they'll have 10K normally on a tournament, but all of a sudden the night that they're giving away tokens, it'll be like 50K. So like,
Yeah.
hey, it might not be like as like air quotes real viewership, but like, hey, if you can juice the viewership by giving good rewards, why not do it? Get your numbers up.
Yeah,
It'll help with
definitely.
expansion.
Yep, always.
So that's good to see. Then last thing before we just start talking individually about each teams, this was a weird thing, kind of out of the blue. Like I just randomly saw it on Twitter today. Apparently, Major 4, which was scheduled to take place in New York, is just no longer going to be in New York. Kind
Yeah,
of like random and out of the blue, but the location's been taken off the website. The event is going to be moved to another city. Apparently, as of now, according to like the sources from CDL Intel, Florida is like the strong contender to host it instead, and that event would be March 24th through April 16th. The tournament weekend would be April 13th to the 16th. So Florida, I mean, I saw like a lot of people on Twitter were begging for it to be London. That would be awesome. But
it
yeah,
would be.
interesting that New York, like the day after winning a tournament, is like, yeah, now we're not going to have a tournament. That's seems very odd to me, at least.
Yeah, same here. I don't really know why. Maybe I don't understand it really.
The only things I can think of is like obviously something could have come up where they like don't want to. It could be a financial thing, or they don't want to host. But the only other thing that came to my head is like maybe because like remember last year like the New York event, everybody said it was like the best event and like one of the best locations.
Hmm.
So like it, I don't think it would be a CDL like not wanting to have it there and like they thought of a better location because like they loved that event and players loved it. But the only other thing I thought of is maybe like they just were told like, hey, you can get champs.
Potentially.
But I also thought they were talking about how they didn't want to have champs at like the site of teams because it's kind of like last year it became like a home field advantage
Hmm.
for LA Thieves, and you don't necessarily want like a home field advantage in your playoffs. So I don't know. Like it
It's
just
just
seems
very
very odd to me. I wonder if we'll get more news on that soon.
yeah. I don't. I honestly I can't really think of why it would happen, but yeah.
It's an odd thing. I would think could be maybe champs or something, but I don't know. We'll see because it seems very odd with how great they said that location was. But I'm
Yeah.
hoping it's maybe not champs because I'm like sitting here thinking like maybe we'll get champs in like Chicago and it'll be easy for us to go, but who knows? I'll be interested to hear what happens. I'm sure we'll get more news on
Hmm.
why that's the case, but sucks for people because like that tournament's in April, which is at this point about like 4 months away because it's like mid-April. So like, some people probably already took off work or that wanted to like fly to that event because it's like a good trip to New York and like
Yeah.
people might have already booked flights. So hopefully they're able to cancel because that kind of sucks that they told that. Like that's always been my biggest gripe. Like we want to go to champs this year and it's in June, which doesn't seem like that far away, but like the older you get, you have a little bit more obligations and it's harder to just like travel on short notice.
Yeah.
So like for us, like that's in June, we want to make sure we're off work and like are able to book a place to stay and flights and stuff early enough. So like I hate that they always wait so long, like until like a month or two ahead of time to announce the location. Because for people that have to travel to it, which is a lot of people, like it delays you. So they better get their stuff together and stop switching weekends and like hiding locations from us. Just damn it, tell us where the events are going to be.
Yeah. For real.
It gets really
Yeah.
annoying.
It helped everyone out in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Then that is about all we had for news. Like I said, pretty short. There's only about 10, 15 minutes of news. But now we're just going to basically do a deep dive into each team. We're going to start with the teams from that finished outside of bracket play. So OpTic, Boston, LAG, London, Royal Ravens are the teams that didn't make it to the bracket. So we're going to kind of go one by one with those teams, talk about just like the tournament as a whole for them, maybe what went wrong, what does like the next few weeks look like for them, just like basically we're going to go team by team and talk about individually starting from like the bottom placers to the top. Then we'll go to top 8. Then we'll go to the 2 teams that finished top 6, and then our 4th place team, 3rd place team, 2nd and 1st. Kind of get the idea, and like might not spend as much time on other teams if we don't have as much to talk about. We'll just kind of see where it goes and see how much we like this format because we're always trying out new stuff to react to the majors and stuff.
Yep.
First thing we're going to talk about though, A couple teams in this group of teams that didn't advance to bracket play that I didn't think we'd be talking about here.
Very
Really,
odd.
like for sure, two of them I didn't think we'd be talking about. London doesn't shock me as bad as it sounds to say, but like LAG is a little surprising to me, and OpTic and Boston are very surprising to me that we're talking about them here. But first is OpTic. They don't make it to bracket play. That's definitely not what I expected. I don't know if I necessarily expected them to like win the tournament. I had them finishing like top 4 at least, but to see them not make it to bracket is a pretty shocking turn for me. But
Mhm.
man, it's Florida. Florida, no matter what the roster is in the CDL
Florida
era, just
again.
they have OpTic's number. You cannot deny that.
They have optics number when it matters most, you'd say.
Yeah, it's an odd thing though, isn't it? Like OpTic is clearly the more talented team. Like it shouldn't be a thing. And like every time they've played,
Yeah.
in my opinion, they've been the more talented team. But it's just like for something about that matchup with Florida, they get them.
It's like a little mental block for some reason.
It's weird though because it's not even like the same players. Like Dave Patty's gone, and um,
I know.
I'm blanking. There are a couple that played Skies, Awakening. They're not on the team anymore.
Vivid, yeah.
Like it's just so it's just so odd to me.
It's
I
like
just don't
it's
understand.
like when they see that Mutineers logo, it's like freeze or something.
They saw those new jerseys and they're like, those are fire. They were just like scared, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And it doesn't help when Illy's shooting bodies too.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
I don't
understand
understand.
that.
That was tough. I was gonna say some stuff about Florida, but I want to save it. I don't want to talk about Florida till we get to them. But OpTic, like a lot to talk about here. I've got like some of the advanced stats up and like some of the regular stats, but Shotzi was obviously their overall top KD. Scump and Illy were both around 0.95s. A lot of people were really on Illy for this tournament. Scump did perform down from what we had seen from him. Still, it
Mhm.
wasn't a bad event by any means. He had a 0.96. But like I don't know, I don't really think like we expect Scump to do much more than a 0.96. Like maybe we expect him to be above a 1 and slang a little more, but like I think it was almost close to what we'd expect from him. He also almost averaged like a minute and 40 seconds in the hill and hardpoint. But Dashy, man, like he was barely above Ilian damage. He had a 1.01 from the AR spot. I get that subs were people figure out the Vaznev was pretty darn good in this event, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I kind of expected a little bit more from Dashy. He controls usually his game mode. He had a 0.96 in that. He's supposed to be like an MVP caliber player, and like he's using an AR, a pretty easy position to put up some numbers. And he didn't do it for me this weekend. I was a little shaky on Dashy.
Yeah, he definitely underperformed.
Do we think a change is needed with this team?
We'll give him one more major, but then even then, I don't know if they will make a change because of the Scumps last year.
It's OpTic. It's always like,
It's like hard to.
and we've seen it always with OpTic. Like they need, if you think they should make a change, they need like extra to make a change because they just don't do it ever.
Yeah,
Like it's very rare for them to make a change.
yeah. So
And
I
also, it's
get.
very rare for them to make a change, not only like in general, but especially mid-season. They don't really do that very often.
Mhm. Yeah. So you gotta give him at least one more month next major, and then if that goes off, then he'll be
Yeah,
thinking about it.
I kind of agree, but also at the same time, like it is a little bit different situation because like they did like basically drop Illy and Dashy before the season. So like I
Mhm.
wonder if like a bad placing like this just kind of like brings out some of those old issues because obviously there were some issues that they were willing to drop them.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like dropping them or like placing this poorly brings out some of those old issues again.
Yeah, potentially. Just I don't know. Their KDs weren't bad overall. Just I guess in the moment they really couldn't ice up. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I would say it's definitely a team to watch because I think now, based on how the offseason went with a couple of their players like Illy and Dashy potentially being dropped or like announced that they were restricted free agents, I think the leash might be shorter and it might be a realistic possibility for them to make changes. Because like you said, you don't know if they'll make changes in Scump's last year, but I think you could also flip that argument and say like because it's Scump's last year, like things aren't going well, they might get desperate and make some major changes because they don't want him to go out on a bad note.
Yeah, I wonder if they do a trade, do like a first ever trade or something. If that goes really bad.
I mean, like the one that seemed obvious for me is another team like LAG. Like if something's not working out with Dashy because like they obviously had thoughts to drop him. Arcitys has the history with OpTic and with
Mhm.
Scump and with Hecz. Like that seemed like a possible position because like if you're LAG, you can get a young, talented player like Dashy on your roster. It's probably something to be interesting in doing because we know of Dashy's ceiling. I mean, he was the runner up to MVP last year.
Yeah.
Like nobody will deny that Dashy's ceiling is insane. He has the ceiling to be the best player in the league at times.
He does, but just he doesn't bring it all the time, all the tournaments.
But like if you're a team like LAG and your team is sucking anyways, you might want to get a guy like Dashy who might be under contract for multiple years, potentially build around if you're struggling anyways. Kind of like in sports, like how you trade maybe like a vet. If you're not ready to win, you trade away your vet for a young star. It could kind of be like that. Like an
Yeah.
Arcitys would help maybe OpTic in like a win now mode. Like that could be a potential thing. But I also think like OpTic was to make a change. I think they would look at a 2-man change. I feel like they would just finally make the move of Dashy and Illy since they already looked at it. But who knows? Could all be premature. Maybe we know this team has incredible talent. They won an event together last year. Maybe it was just they need a little bit more time to learn the game. I think the reason that people are so alarmed is because OpTic usually does so well at the first event always.
Yeah.
They seem to always win it or place very well. So like to see them not even make it to bracket play is outrageous.
Yeah. Maybe it's flipped this year. First comes last ride.
And maybe they improve towards the end.
Yeah, just like the Thieves last year.
Yeah. All right. Next team that didn't advance to bracket play, Boston. I honestly don't have as much on this team because to me, personally at least, I felt like this was a slight fluke in a way. Simply because, I mean, like, Awakening isn't able to play in
Mhm.
their second match because of like an illness or he like wasn't feeling well for that match. So that's a little tough for them. Obviously, they have to bring in Beans, which Beans very good player, one of the top players and challengers, but it's always hard when you're just picking up a replacement who's doesn't really fit into your system because you haven't worked with him on everything and every little detail, which at that level, every little detail matters.
Yep.
In Awakening in the one series, he did play at a 0.9. Nero had a very, very good event though. A 1.33 in control, 1.14 overall was one of the top KDs on the weekend. I honestly am not ready to panic on Boston. It is really shaky that they don't make it out. But like I said, it's tough to judge because they didn't have their full team for both matches.
Yeah. The upside is Nero played well.
Yeah, Nero played well. Wake, you might be able to discount it because, well,
Yeah.
frankly, he didn't get to actually like play. And Methods was normal solid Methods, but to see Nero have that ceiling to me is a very big deal.
Mhm.
Um, Also, like I think this is where you have to look a little bit at like advanced stats in terms of hardpoint. Vivid had a 1.1 in hardpoint and was at 26.8 kills per 10 minutes, which if I sort it by all players at Major One, I would have to assume that that's probably pretty high on the list of kills per 10. Yeah, Vivid was number 1 in hardpoint kills per 10 minutes, and Nero was number 2.
Yeah. They're just flying hard point.
Yeah, and actually Beans ended up being 7th in the one match he played.
Oh, jeez.
So pretty impressed with that. Something I actually just sorted by hardpoint hill time. Interesting. Scump and Illy were number 1 and 2 in hardpoint hill time per game. That's interesting on the same team.
Yeah. That's
Um,
kind of odd.
yeah, but Nero was also 3rd in hardpoint damage per 10 minutes, and Vivid was 6th, and Methods was in 9th in hardpoint damage. So like advanced stats tell you like in hardpoint they're frying, like they have some other things to clean up, but personally, I have like absolutely no panic. Some people like on the flank, I heard like pretty down on Boston, but I actually don't have that much panic with this team. I think they're going to be just fine. I think it was unfortunate Awakening wasn't able to play in both their matches. Their
Mhm.
elimination match that really sucks. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm not that panicked. I think this team has a lot of talent. To see Nero and Vivid pop off at times once they get a healthy big wake, I think this team's gonna be very good. I'm not that panicked. I'm pretty much saying I'm gonna brush off this as very unlucky series of events, and if they struggle again at Major 2 on their home major, I believe I think the next one's in Boston.
Yeah.
If they struggle big time at their own major, I'm gonna write them off. But I think I'm still ready to maybe go into the next major expecting like a top 6, top 4 finish for Boston.
Mhm. I also maybe wanted to see Doug somehow.
Hey, Doug, get the substitution spot.
Yeah. They go.
Are
What'd
you
you say?
are you on that train as well though? Like Are you panicking about Boston? Or are you kind of like I'm gonna need to see a little more before I am like worried about them? Because
Not,
I'm not worried at all about them personally.
I'm not really worried, but to be fair, I wasn't really that high on them. But
Yeah, I'm pretty
yeah,
high on them still.
you can't really judge it by a big wig not feeling well and
Also, we
throwing
know
in beans.
first event things can be a little interesting. First events um, can be very interesting. Sometimes we see teams have really good runs and then do nothing the rest of the year. Sometimes we see teams suck and then they're pretty consistently good for the rest of the year. So it's don't you want to take everything with a grain of salt because we are very, very, very early into the year.
Still early.
However, we say that and we get to this next team.
Can we skip this?
We might have seen enough from this team. LAG, I think this team has got to make a change. This team sucks. They might be the worst team in the game right now. Probably are the worst team in the game.
They absolutely stink.
Yeah, this team's not good. And like, I was on the train all offseason. I didn't think they were going to be that great. I thought they had potential, but I wasn't that high on them. You obviously were very high on them. I think you even said that they might win an event.
Yeah,
You were picking Arcitys to be a dark horse MVP. Like you were really high on this team. I necessarily wasn't, but it was rough. It was rough. Spart had a .72 in hardpoint, 19.1 kills per 10, which if I sort here, also 19.8 for both Neptune and Arcitys. If I sort by hardpoint kills per 10, which is like the kills per 10 and damage per 10 is a lot of times how you can tell a lot more.
mm-hmm.
Spart is only ahead of interesting. Spart is only ahead of Illy, Dashy, and then dead last was Major Maniac and hardpoint kills per 10. But he's only ahead of Illy, Dashy, and Major Maniac, which is interesting to see Dashy all the way down there. He's playing slow. And then if you sort by hardpoint damage as well, oh wow, hardpoint damage per 10, Scump was the bottom player.
Really?
Insight was just above him, Major Maniac, Illy, but like you've got RC's, Neptune, Hook, they're all in a row, kind of towards the bottom. And then Spart's a little higher, but like overall, like damage per 10, kills per 10 in almost every mode, like they're not looking the best.
Definitely, would you say shit the bed this weekend?
Yeah. So this team, we got to say they probably got to make a change. Their only map wins this weekend were against a Challengers team.
Yeah.
Oh no, they won one map against Minnesota.
Yeah, it's not gonna cut it when your academy team's playing better than your pro team. Also,
Yeah, the maps that they won, they obviously won the one hardpoint against the Challengers team, but they won they didn't win a hardpoint. They didn't win a respawn against a pro team this weekend.
Jesus, yeah. They need to clean it up. If they want to even get anywhere near to winning a event.
I mean, Jesus Christ! In the series against New York, Neptune had 9.8 control kills per 10.
Jesus.
Yeah, this is bad. This is bad. This team has to make a change. And overall, like obviously we're talking about a lot of stats right now and like deep diving into their map counts and stuff. The fact they weren't able to win a respawn against pro teams, but like just the eye test tells you too. Like it's a mess. I was extremely concerned with the 3-year contract for Spart going into the season. I wasn't reassured at all that that was a good decision this weekend. I don't know if he is the answer. I would say honestly, I could see a world where you keep Arcitys and you clean the other 3 out. I also am not completely opposed to like you maybe grab a flex and a sub and you keep Arcitys and Hook on the main roster. I'm just not sold on Spartan Neptune personally.
Yeah, it's to be fair. Spartan Neptune haven't underperformed all season so far.
But they have Joe Deceives on their challenger roster, who everybody's saying is one of the top players. I feel like he's an easy call up.
Yeah, definitely try him out.
And Exceed has been playing very well in challengers. He was the challengers MVP last year. We've seen him in the league before. He played a little bit on the Rokkr. Like he looks very good. I would say maybe like you call those two up. Maybe choose between Hook or Joe Deceives to run your second AR.
Yeah.
And then let the other two, whether it's Exceed and either Hook or Joe Deceives, run it up, get some younger talent in there, get some fresh blood in there. I just don't think Spartan Neptune are the move for me. I kind of was on that train all offseason. It's been pretty much confirmed. It's looking tough out here for this team.
Yeah, it's looking very grim, but maybe I think they'll give him one more shot.
I think they might too, just because it's so early. It is tough to make a change this early, but there are some times when you can just tell, like, hey, it's not going to work. And I don't honestly know if there's many other teams. Like, there are teams I don't think can win. Like, I don't think coming out of this weekend, I don't think London or Mutineers can win either. But like, I think there's at least some slight hope that those teams could be a little bit more competitive. This LAG team doesn't even look like it could be very competitive right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of the other team, though, our last team that didn't advance to bracket play that we're going to talk about before we get into our 2 top 8 teams, London. I'd say, like, of our top 12 teams, or our teams that didn't advance, like, maybe the least shocking, because I would say most people expected OpTic and Boston to advance. I know Boston was kind of on the fence, but like, I think most people would have them ahead of London. And LAG, like, they looked rough, but like, I feel like a lot more people probably picked them to advance than London. London was maybe a little more expected, but does a change need to be made with this team? Are you thinking about it, or are you like, they looked okay at some point in the online qualifiers? Like, do you keep trying to run it back a little bit? I don't know. This is a little more expected for me, so I feel like I'm not as panicked maybe because of that.
Yeah. I don't think they will make a change at this moment. I think no one will make a change until maybe after Major 2, if need be, unless it's going really bad in like the qualifiers.
I don't know. I could see a team making a change. I could see like LAG making a change before, but I agree in general, most teams probably wouldn't make a change before Major 2.
Yeah. London, had the first 2 weeks of online qualifiers, and then just don't win after that.
Yeah, and like, looking at their they've lost a lot of series in a row, but like, looking at their individual stats, wasn't like the worst weekend for any of their players. Like, none of them really played like particularly bad. Zero had a pretty good weekend. Actually, was pretty decent in hardpoint kills per 10 and overall KD and hardpoint KD. Like, in hardpoint, they overall played pretty well, and like, nobody was like noticeably playing terrible. Paul overall, based on his numbers, was playing pretty slow.
Yep.
In his advanced stats, but like, the tough thing for me is that they lose to an academy team. They lose to LAG Academy, which, granted, best challenger team in the game right now. They won the tournament as well, so like, it is a very good team, and it's like chocked full of former pros.
Yeah.
And talented players. Like, it's not really like as embarrassing as it may sound to lose to an academy team. Like, when you say it like that, they lost to a challenger team, it like sounds kind of embarrassing. But make no mistake, LAG Academy is a very good Call of Duty team.
It's like different for some teams in the challenges.
Yeah, and they're a very good team. It's not like it's like some super embarrassing thing. Obviously, you're a CDL team. You don't want to ever lose to a challenger team. But like, it's not as embarrassing as it sounds when you say, hey, they lost to a challenger team. But yeah, they got 3-0'd by Seattle, then beat in a map 5 against LAG Academy. I don't have that much to say about London, to be honest. Kind of what I expected from them was to not make it out. Maybe I didn't expect them to exactly lose to an academy team, like I said, but I still feel like there's like a glimpse of this team like being a potential team that can make noise and crack into the top 8, just because like ASIM still has that pop-off potential. Like, they have very consistent players that are like pretty smart players and can play well. To me, like, I just don't know how this team makes a change to get better, because we've learned this offseason that they don't like to spend a lot of money on their contracts. And like, the best EU players that just popped off, which is what they like to sign, were like Gizmo and Harry. Like, they had those 2 last year. Do they really want to run it back with them again?
Probably not.
Yeah, like, I don't see a world. Yeah, and like Wardy, another talented, I believe he's from EU. He's under contract with New York, so
yeah.
I don't know. With this team, I'm ready to watch them a little bit more, because I do think like the tools are there for them to be like a consistent teamwork based team that can cause a couple upsets, and I want to see them develop that teamwork a little more before just like jump into a change.
Yeah,
because I also don't know that the change is available. You have to always remember, every team could make a change to get better, but it has to be available and they have to be willing to do it.
Yep. I didn't have high hopes for this team. I think that I picked them to lose to a LAG team academy.
Yeah. I will say though, like, I'm not as low as I feel like I could be on them. Like, I still like, when they play, I'm not like it's an auto win. Like, I do think because of the caliber of veterans they have on their team, like, I'm not always ready to instantly write them off. Like, I think they can be a competitive team, and that my mind wasn't changed from this weekend by that.
Yeah, there is some promise with them.
Yeah. All right, our top 8 teams. We got Mutineers first. They finished top 8. I thought honestly this weekend I would consider overall a positive step for the Mutineers, in my opinion.
I would too, since
I wouldn't
we
have been shocked for them to not make it out, right?
yeah,
Like in their
honestly.
group they had OpTic in Toronto. I expected them to not make it out of their group. So the fact that they made it out to me would be an improvement on what I thought.
Yeah, T8. I thought their season was be like 11 or 12, basically one of the last two. So happy for them is pretty good.
Well, I would say they got one of the tougher pools. Like I would consider like going to the event. I would say if you got placed in a pool with OpTic in Toronto, that would be a very tough pool.
Yeah,
And they made it out. Like overall, and on the weekend, like Havoc on land, Brock 1.06 best KD on the team.
maybe we see some new Havoc this year.
Yeah, the first series against OpTic, the one that they lost in map 5, Havoc was having his way.
I think you're texting me because I wasn't able to watch it at the moment. He
He
said he's
was
frying.
he was cooking OpTic in the first series that they ended up losing. He
Mm-hmm.
was frying them. I actually want to look at Havoc's advanced stats for search and destroy because looking at his basic stats, he had a 1.33 in search this weekend, and Brack had a 1.26. Major Maniac with a 0.86, a little concerning though.
Yeah, he definitely,
As an AR.
But he'll get better with more time. Closer to champs, he'll step up.
Yeah, that is true. The clear thing that sticks out to me though, Florida on the year, 5-4 in control, pretty good. 7-5 in search, pretty good. 4-12 in hardpoint.
Yeah, kind of just getting outslayed, out superstar, you'd say.
Yeah, they struggle pretty big time in hardpoint. Yeah, in that series against OpTic, Havoc had a 1.27 that first series in hardpoint or in search, I mean, and Jesus, yeah, he was having his way. 30% of his team's kills, 2 maps. Second series against OpTic, he had a 2.57 in search and destroy. Brack had a 2.75 in that map 5 win. I thought it was funny. Did you see the Aches clip he posted?
I don't think so.
He was
Actually,
like they were doing like a tier ranking of all the teams before the season, like in October. And he said, yeah, you're all high on OpTic until they get Nesloed first event by Florida to get knocked out, and they got Nesloed by Florida to get knocked out. I thought that, and he posted the thing that he was like, hey, it may have been early, but I'm never wrong. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Aches. I always.
He's always trolling OpTic, which is I always think it's funny.
It's very funny.
But they got Nesloed. Tough to see, but Florida, hey, I would say, like I said, my last thing before we move on to our next team, I'd say step in the right direction. Brack impressed me a lot this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Havoc impressed me. I thought Vickle at times, like there were some series where I thought Vickle needed to slow down a little bit. At sometimes it was like the go button was a little too fast for him, and I like the speed, but like I said, you can only play with so much speed if the players around you aren't matching it. It's not going to do you any good. And we know Brack, Major Maniac, even Havoc are slower players at their position. Speaking of slow, I'm on Dave Patty watch. Major Maniac's going to have to improve, or Mr. Dave might be coming off the bench.
Yeah. So yeah, typical.
Yeah. Because Major Maniac with a 0.86 on the main AR is not going to cut it. Obviously, we know the IC brings.
Yeah,
but
he's not showing it right now.
But like right now, like their issue, search and destroy. Dave Patty's also a pretty good search and destroy player. He can also bring out the sniper. And I think he's a control player. And like if your issue is like you're concerned with Dave Patty's speed, well, I would be too. But like Major Maniac is also like the slowest player in the league still currently. So like it can't get much slower if you bring in Dave. And
Yeah.
maybe Dave would bring a little more slaying and hardpoint. But also, it's easy to say that because his numbers are bad, but we know Major Maniac brings a lot of intangibles. So we'll see. But I'm on Dave
Like
Patty is
IDL.
like Dave Patty's like knocking on the like he's getting prepared to knock on the door. Like I'm aware that he's there, and I think he might be looking to sub him in to raise this team's hardpoint ceiling.
He's like walking up to the door.
Yeah, you can see him on the Ring doorbell cam right now. He's getting ready.
It's so frustrating for Major Maniac. You have a good map than a bad map. It's so inconsistent.
Yeah, and like this team, what they're missing right now, they're pretty good in search, pretty good in control. They're missing the consistent slaying and hardpoint to be able to put up numbers. That's really what they're missing right now.
Yeah.
So that could be a potential thing to look at. But I think that I think Vickel's gonna improve. I'm a little concerned because I don't know if Havoc can keep up that performance, which is what concerns me with this team.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't see how you could say much besides it's a pretty positive weekend because they outperformed a lot of expectations.
Yeah. I think Brack would be the same. Stay the same.
Yeah, he was a pretty good player when we saw him in the league in Black Ops 4, so I would expect him. I would agree.
Yep.
All right. So next team, top 8, Rokkr. On the other side of the coin here, I'd say Mutineers was impressive. I'd say this is a disappointing finish.
It is
for me for the Rokkr. They lose to Legion to get eliminated, which doesn't sound as bad as it may have last year because Legion's actually a decent team now.
Yeah.
But man, hardpoint S&D inconsistencies were really costly for them. Sometimes they're really good at search, sometimes they're really good at hardpoint, but they can never piece together. It just feels like every year they have a team that's just so talented, but they just like
Can't piece
they
it
can't
together.
they just can't put it together. Like I'm not overly concerned, but I'm like if we're talking about like panic button, I'm not looking for the panic button. I'm not opening up the case on it to hit it. I'm just like I'm making myself aware of where it is because it's like this team should be better early. Like I thought this team was going to be good right away. I don't think they're bad. I think they're pretty good. I wouldn't be shocked to see them improve on this placing at the next event, but it's a little troublesome as to why they couldn't do better than top 8.
Yeah, but it is a new team. It is a new team, so they gotta get more time to gel with each other.
Yeah, that is true. That's 100% true. It could take a little time to gel. It's just like when you see a team with this much talent on it, you want it to work right away, and you can get impatient. I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. But they're all good enough players in their own rights. I think they'll piece it together, coming gradually.
Yeah, they also feel like a
Major,
team
major.
that I think they're also a team that like if you want to take some positives away, I feel like Attach first event is a main AR 1.08 at a 1.23 in hardpoint. Also at a 0.79 in search. So like if you look at their search KDs, they really struggled. Overall in search and destroy, like Attach at a 0.79, came to the 0.54, Bance to the 0.76. If you were to tell me that this team dominated in search but really struggled with their hardpoint KDs and stuff, I would have been a little more concerned. Feel like you'd probably agree with this. Like if you're telling me that right now Minnesota's struggling in search, I feel like that's a good thing because like this one game mode I trust this team to improve in, it'd be search. Like they're 7 and 8 in hardpoint, so they're about 500 in hardpoint. That's not terrible. They're 7 and 2 in control, 5 and 0 on a CeeLo, and 2 and 2 on Fortress. Then search and destroy, they're 4 and 6. So like their worst game mode is search and destroy. Now, if you were to tell me that their worst game mode is going to be search and destroy, I'd feel very good about the chances of this team because if they've already got their hardpoint and at about a 50% win rate and their controls at like a 75% win rate, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about that for this team because I think that they're going to be able to improve their search. So I'd say overall, like definitely disappointing to finish top 8, but the path to getting better is clear for me.
Yeah, definitely. Like last year they could win a hardpoint to save their life. Now they're actually winning hardpoint.
And like,
and then this,
I would say like if you told me like this Minnesota roster, their win rate and hardpoint's going to be about 50%, I'd say they could win events with that.
Definitely,
because I feel like they'd be so good at control and search that 50%, if they win half their hardpoints, I like so that basically means like between maps 1 and 4 they're going to split. All I have to do is trust them to win 2 of the 3 maps between the 2 searches and control. I would take Minnesota in most of those series. Like I trust them to be able to win 2 searches or a search and control.
Yeah,
as long as they're able to split the hardpoints. So I would say like the fact that search and destroy is their worst game mode right now is a positive for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because like I think that's the easiest game mode for this team to fix. For some teams, definitely not, but for this team, I think it's the easiest one for them to fix.
Yeah, overall disappointing weekend, but they'll gradually get better every day, every week.
And like we said, it's the first event of the year, and it happened faster than normal. It's a new team, like people are going to struggle, and like perfect example is the next team we're about to talk about, LA Thieves. They finished top 6. Obviously, the team that you picked to win the event, probably a lot of people picked to win the event because they're the defending champs. They had won the last 2 events we saw. They bow out top 6. They lost to Seattle and Toronto, which, I mean, Toronto at times looked like they were probably the best team at this major for a little bit there. I think heading into Sunday, a lot of people were probably thinking Toronto might win it all. And then Seattle obviously was one of the better teams of this major. They finished second. So
Yeah.
interesting there from Thieves. Overall, when you look at the stats, Octane was the only player above a 1 at the major with a 1.01. Draza and Envoy are both in the 0.9s, and Kenny had a 0.86.
Yeah.
Interesting, but I'm also at the same point. Like they had a lot of series where they were very close. Like they beat Vegas 3-2, beat Elevate 3-1, lost to Seattle 1-3, 3-0 Florida, lost to Toronto 1-3. Some overall like pretty close series. Feel like they just need a little bit of time to learn the game, maybe.
Yeah. I think so, honestly. I don't know if. Yeah.
I'd say just a little concerning to see Kenny at a 0.86, though, considering how much everybody was saying like
Hyping him up.
the Vaznev was so good on LAN.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to be calling for him to do a role switch because we saw what happened with that last year.
Yeah. I think Kenny's, well, last year he started slow too, because of the role switch as well. I think he just starts slow in games.
Yeah, and like I feel like LAT is maybe a little bit of a slow starting team as well.
Mm-hmm.
I do like though that like their engagements per 10 and their damage per 10 and all this stuff, like in every mode mostly, besides maybe like a few outliers, it's very close in terms of like engagements per 10, kills per 10, damage per 10. Besides maybe controls a little bit of discrepancies, Envoy's a little bit higher than everybody, but overall, like when you look at their advanced stats like that, like pacing wise, it looks like they're on the same page. They're just maybe not picking up the kills right now, which once again, if you were to tell me the issue with Thieves is maybe they need to slate a little more and they're not picking up kills, I trust Octane, Envoy, Draza, and Kenny to pick up the slaying. This is not a team that's going to struggle with that. So like, I feel like you got to do a little bit of a deep dive into these stats. And like when I see that their pacing seems to be on point, that's a positive for me because I feel like that just means that they just got to start picking up more kills, which is something I trust them to do. Also, Draza with 30.2 S&D first blood percentage. That's like got to be one of the highest in the weekend. That's pretty insane.
Jesus, yeah.
But also, I feel like there were series where players in their team were playing very well, but like none of them were playing extremely well at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Draza was number 2 in S&D first blood percentage behind Beans, who only had like the one map.
Yeah.
He was 4% higher than Abezy in first blood percentage, which we know he's the king of that.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty overall disappointing weekend because they're Thieves. Like their goal every tournament, like they expect to win. But I'd say top 6 based on the way it went for them isn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Top 6 with just one player going above 1 barely. Take it.
Yeah, but I would see an improvement on the horizon for them, and I expect them to get a little better. I would say
as the time goes. Yeah, definitely.
All right, then we've got Legion, the other team in top 6. Maybe the surprise of the weekend. I guess NYSL wasn't really expected to win, so they might be considered the surprise of the weekend. But
Let's go Legion.
yeah, Legion top 6 finish, like more CDL points than they had all of last year. Really
New
their best
era.
performance, probably the best performance at a tournament since the one random home series final appearance they had in MW.
Yeah.
Super impressive weekend for them, and I would say like I could see a way they improve because I feel like they were in some series that they could have won and they kind of threw away. Like I'm excited for this team going forward.
Yeah, I like this team on LAN. Pro stepped up on LAN compared to
DJ did as
online.
well. DJ looked
And
pretty good.
Yeah. I kept doing his thing. Plays a little bit, 0.86 KD, but he'll get it up. He'll get it up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that overall impressive weekend from them, and like you said, Clay 0.86, a little shocking to see, but like I felt like he was making a lot of plays and big plays when it mattered. It had some pretty big clutches in Search and Destroy. Temp had the ace in round 11 in that map too, versus Thieves to put them up 2-0. Obviously didn't end up how they wanted it to. They got reverse swept in that series, but like even in the series they lost, they were so much more competitive than the typical Legion team we see. Search and Destroy for this team this weekend. On point. I mean, look at the Search and Destroy KDs. The worst one on the team was Clay with a 1.0.
Jeez. Yeah, this team thrives in the Search and Destroy.
Yeah, what was their overall record in Search this year is 10-5, and they're 6-13 in hardpoint and 3-7 in control.
Yeah, if they did get the 500 and maybe control a little bit lower than hardpoint, fuck around, maybe go top 3.
I mean, yeah, what in the Thieves series they went 1-1 in Search and Destroy. The Boston series they went 2-0. Elevate they went 2-0. Against Faze they lost the one search, and then against Minnesota they uh won both searches, and then against New York they won their search.
Mhm.
So like they basically the only search they lost on the weekend was to Atlanta and then LA Thieves, and they won every other search.
which is fair because
Yeah,
those teams are good at search.
very good.
Very very excited to see this team actually do some good work.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this team as well. I think I'm a little scared because TJ and Prelude, I don't know if they can keep up the pretty crazy performances we saw. But if we can see Teach continue to put up these numbers and this team overall continue to look like this, I'm excited. I think they're a team that they're never going to really be like heavy favorites going into many matches, but I could see them being a consistent, annoying team that has potential to upset a lot of people.
Could you see this team being maybe like a LAG last year?
Like making a run to win it all.
Making a crazy run, win it all.
I
Event
don't know. It's really tough for me to say that they're going to win an event. I can see them being like I was gonna say like Florida, but I don't know if that's right. But it's maybe the closest thing.
or like Boston last year, they like finished like top 3, major
Yeah,
2.
like I can see this team being like a Boston or a Florida from last year, whereas like going into a lot of series, you weren't maybe necessarily having them as the favorite. Going into events, you weren't picking them to be a favorite, but it was like Boston and Florida. Like every year, you expected them to maybe lose early or every tournament last year, you expected them to maybe lose early, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, there they are, they're top 4. Oh, there they are. We were expecting them to get first round, and then they finished top 6. Or
Yeah.
like every year, like every tournament last year, like Florida was like playing somebody good in the first round. You're like, well, Florida will get knocked to losers and they'll finish top 8. Well, nope, they just won. They're in winners round 2. Like I could see Legion doing that a lot this year, where it's like you never expect them to do something, and then all of a sudden there they are. They didn't do crazy, but they finished top 6, and it might be enough to just constantly finish top 6 that they all of a sudden will see them at champs. I'm excited though. I think this team has a lot of potential to be an annoying, solid team.
Yeah, no team that wins knocks out teams from pro
Like
points.
every time, like that's people always say about like that Toronto team when they had like CleanX Insight, Bance, Cammy. That team, like I could see them being that team that just like they're hard to put away because they're going to be
Yeah,
so good at search and destroy, and like they're going to stick in every game mode. Clay's going to yell at you a lot, and they're going to
Clay's gonna shit talk you. You might get nervous a
yeah,
little bit.
like they're going to continuously like always stay in series and just like make it so like you gotta be sure you're at your best, or they're going to pull off an upset on you. Which
Mhm.
hey, if Legion are doing that, that's exciting because they've never really been a team that's ever even put up a fight in the CDL era.
Yeah,
All
just
right,
like
now we're to our fourth place team, Brock. Toronto, your boys.
Toronto.
The team I picked to win the tournament. I'd say like if halfway through the tournament, they're probably like the favorite in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah,
They're looking very good. Scrappy had a great event for his first event. Um, I'd say overall positives from this event, an impressive performance for their first event together for um, Scrappy's first really event as a pro.
Mhm.
Standy looked very improved. We saw a lot of glimpses of like the Cold War, like superstar
Mhm.
Standy. CleanX was CleanX. He's also pretty good. Insight was making clutch plays, jumping out the bedroom window
Yeah.
um, against Thieves, killing him off the bomb. Like overall, thought pretty good weekend for Toronto. I'd say in their eyes, are probably pretty disappointed because they felt like for a little bit there, they're probably the best team at the tournament. So like
Yeah.
obviously in their eyes, they're gonna be disappointed because they came in with expectations to win. But I'd say like I came away with nothing but positives from this team. I mean, Kleenex and Standy, the sub duo, had 1.04s. Insight had a 1.09. Scrappy with a 1.11. Pacing wise, everything seems to be pretty in sync with them. Uh, I'd say I came out of this tournament believing that Toronto is a top 4 team and one of my favorites going into pretty much every event.
Jeez, I'm just these stats are all like so like close. That means you're playing as a team together.
And Kleenex is getting your S&D first bloods. Like he's the highest clearly in that, which I'd expect.
Mhm.
Kills per round, they're all relatively close. Um, like hill time, it's all pretty spread. Like almost everybody is averaging about a minute in the hill. Damage, they're all pretty close. Besides like insights, maybe a little lower, but you'd expect that he's playing a little slower. And in kills per 10, insights maybe a little lower because he's playing slower. But like everything seems in sync. Scrappy was an absolute demon in control. He was dominating in control this weekend.
Yes, Scrappy's him.
Yeah, he's an incredible player. I would overall say though, like I was very impressed with this team. I wanted to see something. I wanted to see Scrappy do it in his first event. I believed he could for sure.
Mhm.
But
That
I wanted to see it to be sure. Like, you always want to see it first to be sure. I had faith he wasn't going to get nervous on land. He was going to be very good. But like, I thought it was a 99% chance. There's always that 1% chance. But nah, he definitely, he's a beast. That team is very good. I'd be shocked if they weren't like a pretty consistent top 4 team.
yeah, that is right into
Very good.
the more hotter team of the weekend.
And they seem like Insight, Kleenex, Standing, Scrappy. Like they seem like they could be so good at search. Seem like they're going to slay in hardpoint. I feel like this team is just going to be like, if we fast forward to the end of the year and they finish top 4 at every event, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say I expected them to win an event this year, and I would say leaving this tournament, I still expect them to find a way to win one event this year at least.
Yeah, especially if they keep playing like that. Definitely.
Yeah. All right, Brock, our third place team. We got Atlanta Faze. I thought they
ATL.
battled well, but the goalpost for this team is just like so high. Basically, if they don't win, it's like that's a sucky weekend for them.
Failure.
Like, because they're just that good. Like that's how good they
Yeah.
are.
hmm
I'd say the thing that sticks out to me in their stats, first of all, Abezy had a 1.77 in search. That's unreal.
Jesus.
Cellium with the classic Cellium event, 1.21 overall KD.
What's new
Simp
with
and Abezy
him?
both around to 1. Slasher at a 0.92. A little lower for Slasher. I feel like finishing third at this tournament, which I would consider kind of a growing pains tournament for them.
hmm
Like this is the first time they've played with a new player on their roster in like over 2 years. And they still come out in third. And I thought it was impressive because that they, like, to me, if you look at their wins and losses also this tournament, it's pretty impressive because like they beat LAG Academy 3-2, which like, yeah, it's an Academy team, but once again, best challengers team in the game right now. They 3-0'd Seattle, who was our eventual runner-up. They 3-1 to Vegas, who was on a hot streak. They 3-1 Toronto, who at the time was like the hottest team in the tournament.
Yep.
Lost a tough map 5 to Seattle, and that map 4 against Seattle in winners final, insane. Like maybe the best comeback we'll see all year.
Jeez, like 140 points.
Yeah, unreal. That map was unreal. And they lose to our eventual champions, New York, in a tough fought 3-1 series. So like the 2 teams they lost to this weekend, the only 2 teams they lost to were the 2 teams that made finals.
Yeah.
Overall, they're 10-8 in hardpoint on the year, 9-5 on search, 5-5 in control. I think coming out of this weekend, they might be my pick to win the next event. I still came out very impressed with them. Like it's going to be hard to obviously pick against New York, but it's hard to go back to back. Pacing wise, everything seems very even. They're all within 2 kills of each other and kills per 10 in hardpoint. All within like 200 damage of each other, all within like 10 seconds of hill time in hardpoint. First blood percentage, they have 3 players over 12% in search and destroy. Like damage and control, they're all very close. Kills per 10, they're all within 2. Like they're playing together. Their pacing is good. I think it's just a bit of a learning curve, and they lost a couple tight series.
Yeah.
I'd still say gun to my head, pick a team to win champs. I think I'm still leaning Faze, but
Yeah, they're very consistent no matter what year it is.
like, I just think, and I think with Slasher they're going to continue to improve. Like I think it's just going to be a little bit of growing pains because they haven't played. Like he steps into like basically an IGL role for them, and they've had Alex voice, Arcitys voice in their ear for 2 years now.
Yeah.
As their IGL for the better part of their career, and I think it might just be a little bit of growing pains, but a lot of the issues with him last year was like that Cellium was playing too slow, but pacing wise, he's kind of right on board with them.
Mhm.
And like one of the other issues I'm seeing here, like their hardpoint KDs, 3 guys below a 1. Even in control, their KDs are around all like a 1, but like maybe some slight slaying issues in hardpoint. Just a quick yes or no answer. Do you think that Faze will struggle with slaying too much this year in respawn?
I do not perceive that to be true in the future.
Yeah. So like, if one of their issues was maybe hardpoint slaying, I don't think that's going to continue. I think Simp, Abezy, Slasher, and Cellium will be able to get some kills on the map.
Yeah, I think they'll get plenty of kills.
I'd say this weekend overall for them was positive, and some people might be like, "How can you say that? How can you say that it's like it's Faze?" Well, like when your expectation is to win every event because of how good you are, like sometimes it's going to maybe seem like it's just like a little bit of a mess. But like I think just clean a couple things up, and I would expect this team. I think we'll see them right back in the top 3 at the next tournament.
Yeah. Also, the new IGL Slasher is pretty different from Alex, so definitely, a little bit weird off the start. So
Yeah, like if this team finishes like top 6, I may be like a little bit like, hey, wait a minute, like what's going on here? But it was a tough battle, and they finished top 3. And I like I said, when we get to the next tournament, I might be picking them to win it all. I picked Toronto to win this tournament, and I was feeling pretty good going into Sunday
Mhm.
and even late on Saturday. But I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with Atlanta. I got nothing else to say on them. I'm very confident that they're gonna be like a top 3, top 2 team this year. Still,
Yeah, definitely.
this weekend didn't change that.
Yep.
Second place team, Seattle. Probably, you could argue. I mean, a part of the teams that didn't win. Obviously, you kind of have to say NYSL had the most impressive weekend because they had a dominant performance in one. But like of the teams that didn't win, maybe the most impressive performance overall would be Seattle, because people were talking about how abysmal this was, and like this team
Hmm.
was not good and they needed to pack a punch, like Ake said, and they didn't with accuracy. And this team was in shambles, and they made a run all the way to second. So maybe the most impressive run overall, considering the
Yeah.
circumstances of any team.
Yeah, definitely.
And the Kobe and Shaq duo, Pred and Sid, these guys are unreal.
It's too good.
They're unreal. And this team, to me, when they unlock the form, I think you'll agree, like, is when accuracy's playing consistent. But when Mac hits that next gear that he has, this
Mhm.
team is almost, I think this team is almost unbeatable when Mac hits that next gear that he sometimes hits. We saw it a couple
Yeah.
times this weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
We saw it in the map that they choked.
Oh,
The
yeah, Mac was like
100 the 140-point lead.
22-7 at one point. Yeah.
He was like 13-2 at one point too. Like he was, and it wasn't like he was shooting him in the back. Like he was running around, ego challenging them and frying Faze.
He's challenge.
And like overall in the year, 12-7 in hardpoint, 7-4 in control, 4-10 in search and destroy.
Yeah.
Like these guys can't win a search and they're still doing this. And like the path of teams they took out, also like they beat London and LAG Academy, kind of whatever, but they also beat Thieves, Faze, and New York on their route to the final.
Yeah, that's some good teams.
Good teams. Like I'd say right now, Atlanta and New York probably both top 3 teams, and Thieves probably right up there, top 4, top 5 team,
Hmm.
and they beat them all.
Yeah. I was very impressed for them to play second after they really couldn't outwin a search to save their lives.
Yeah, they looked pretty bad online. People were calling for roster changes, and like, hey, pretty solid showing from them. The search and destroy still has to improve though, because you can't rely as much on respawn as they did this weekend.
Yeah. Clean up the search and, they'll win it all.
And I completely agree with like what everybody on broadcast was saying. It was basically like if Mac and accuracy have good maps, this team almost becomes unbeatable, because like Sib and Pred are just always on.
Yeah.
Like, God, look at accuracy's hill time, 82.5. It's actually, I can't believe it's lower than Scump and Illy's, because he seems to want to sit in the hill for 3 minutes every map.
It's super soak.
Yeah. Also, accuracy's S&D first blood percentage, this doesn't look like a real number, 1.3%.
What the?
That had to have been the low. I mean, Pred obviously at 21.5. We'd expect with a guy like Pred in your team, it's not gonna be a lot. I want to sort that actually by all teams.
One
Your
point.
S&D first blood percentage is at the lowest. Yeah, accuracy had the lowest. Octane second lowest. I mean, it's a lot of slower players like you'd expect. Like Major Maniacs down here, Cellium, Paul, Octane, accuracy. Like a lot of insight. A lot of slower players down here attach, but 1.3% is like insane. The next lowest is like 3 times as much, 3 times higher percentage.
He ain't moving.
Yeah, we just need some consistency from accuracy and Mac, I think, is my takeaway from Seattle this weekend.
Yeah. Like you said,
Because we don't need
if-
that Mac that we saw on that one map. Like, that was like insane. Just
Yeah,
a little bit more consistent.
yeah. Even if he drops like a one with the Pred and Sib duo, they're winning it.
Yeah, those two are unreal. Those are superstars. I mean, those are like, in my opinion, those are like 2 guys you look at like these are like the future of the league type guys.
They just always do it. Jesus, they're just so good.
Like, would you agree? Like when you look at those 2, like I think those are like 2 guys that 5 years from now they both might have an MVP. Like that's how good I believe these guys are. They're insane. I mean, I picked Pred to win MVP this year, but like these guys are like literally both guys that like I'd be shocked if they ended their career. If both these guys ended their career without a ring and an MVP, I would be surprised. That's how good they are.
Yeah, they're definitely rivaling that Simp and Abezy.
And a lot of people are on the Mac, like the inconsistencies are too much for me. I still think Mac is a really good player. There was a point last year, this guy had the same team, last year, and there was a point last year where like Mac was the best player on this team for a pretty good stretch of the year.
It was like almost like a major and a half.
Yeah, like he was the best player on this team, and it wasn't even debatable for a stretch there. And then obviously towards the end of the year, Pred started kicking up like crazy, and Sib started playing well. But there was a legitimate stretch where it cannot be argued. Mac was the best player on this team.
Yeah.
Like that gets forgotten. Like I think Mac's a really good player, and I do think like it's so tough because people really like to just talk down an accuracy's name because like his playstyle is slow and he never really drops big maps. But like clearly he's bringing something to this team, or they wouldn't have all these high placings.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's bringing something to this team. He's a good leader.
Intangibles, IGL.
Like where is? Let me find the tweet that I liked. You can keep talking a little bit about Seattle while I find this tweet.
Yeah, Seattle accuracy. You know, doesn't he? It's like Draymond. You want to say about the Warriors? He's basically Draymond for the Seattle. So I chalk it up to.
Yeah, here it is. Pred, Sib, Mac, and Accuracy are the 7th team. Shout out to Brian's stats for this, but Pred, Sib, Mac, and Accuracy are the 7th team to make the grand finals as a core 4 in 2 or more Call of Duty titles. And listen to the other names on here. We got the Simp, Abezy, Cellium, and Arcitys squad. Dynasty team. Zuma, Clay, Attach, and Able. If you don't know about that team, they were a consistently great team in jetpacks on Faze.
Very
from
good.
AW through IW, like always top 4. Very good team. Slasher, Apathy, John, and JCap. The NV team that won champs went to back-to-back champs finals. Like the only roster I believe to ever go to back-to-back finals. That team was incredible. The OpTic Dynasty, Scump, Crim, Karma, Formal. The Cole Dynasty, Hecz, Clay, Crim, and TP. And then a shocker team in here, the TK team from back in the day, Sharp, Theory, Neslo, and Goonjar. And then technically they said Shotzi, Illy, Crim, and Hook from MW19 to Cold War if you want to count that, but that's kind of weird because it was 5v5 to 4v4.
Yeah.
But listen to those teams. You got the Cole Dynasty, the Faze Dynasty, the Faze Jetpack squad with Zuma, Clay, Attach, and Able. The NV squad that was legendary. Obviously, like the double dynasties, Cole and OpTic, like I said, and then that TK team that was pretty consistently good back in the day, kind of maybe like the one weird outlier, but like pretty good company to be in, to be a roster to make grand finals in 2 different games.
Yeah, doing something right, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's wild to be honest. It like the scary thing is like I want to say like let's go like this team. I think they can improve. Like they're gonna be consistent, but their thing is inconsistency. So like they might finish top 12 at the next major, and we might be back to panic for them.
Yeah, I think top 2, top 12.
But I'd also say like they're pretty good at search last year, and like I trust accuracy in search. I trust Pred. I trust Sib. I trust Mac. I trust these players in search. Like I think they're searching just like once again. I think it's a positive thing that like they're not struggling in hardpoint or control. They're so good in those game modes because I do think this team could improve to like a 50% win rate in search and destroy, and then they'd be dominant.
Yeah, they don't have to be like the best search; it'd be average.
Yeah, like they're gonna be so good in respawn. But I'd say I come out of this weekend, I'm like, I feel pretty good about this team. Like I think they can improve their search, and I think they'll be pretty good overall.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't really see them go top 2, but you know they proved me wrong.
Yeah, it was definitely overachieving for where people had them at in their mind coming into this event. All right, then our champions. Clearly the best team at this tournament. They're very ahead of everyone. They were dominant. We can talk a little bit about their interesting playstyle they had. Basically, go, get in your face and just dominate, basically.
Keep running, never stop running.
But NYSL, kind of out of nowhere, I would say like we're shocked that they did it, but yes, it's surprising because they weren't like maybe the best team, but like we both agreed before this season, going into this tournament, before everything, like the talent is clearly there for this team to win tournaments.
Clearly.
That was never the question was never if this team had talent to win the tournament. It was if they could put it together and had enough experience and everything, and they did it. A lot of people can be shouted out. Obviously, you don't win a tournament without all the players playing their part. It just doesn't happen. But like, I mean, where do we begin with the shout outs? Kismet wins an MVP. Like this guy went from fringe league player to having a great performance at BO4 champs to being out of the league for a while to being on the Paris Legion in MW, and then doesn't work out, being out of the league for a couple of years, comes back last year and dominates at the end of last year, dominates early. I mean, got to give this guy a shout out. He just made himself undeniable, basically.
Shout out
Kismet.
Kismet.
Also, he seems like a great teammate. Also, like I would want to play with that guy.
Yeah, he just does like all the kind of dirty work, and he was right on top of all that.
Yeah, he does the dirty work. He's willing to do anything to open up the map for his teammates, but he also seems like like a positive teammate. Like he's gassing you. Like if you're like struggling on a map, he doesn't feel like you get that like tone in his voice where you can kind of tell he's annoyed with you, and like he just seems like a good teammate, like a guy that like you'd like to play with.
Yeah, I feel like he's such a momentum. Like, and when he's playing good and his team's hopping up, he's just unkillable. It seems like.
He plays a lot of energy too. If he starts frying, he'll get loud.
Yeah, the bulldog.
Yeah. And also P Dog. I think the biggest shout out from this weekend, that deserves to happen is Priesta.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the last how many years have we been talking about Priesta? Like,
Two.
where is Priesta? Like, we know this guy's a superstar. Like, that's what he's always been.
Yeah. Like, where is he?
Like, where is he in this event? 1.11, 1.09 in hardpoint, 1.15 in search, 1.12 in control. 1.1 or higher basically in every game mode. Incredible. Kind of funny that Kismet wins MVP because he had a 1.03 overall, like pretty significantly the worst KD in his team. But like, if you're watching the maps, you understand why Kismet won MVP. Like, the dude had a crazy impact on the map this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest shout out goes to Priest. Obviously, like the shout outs have to go all around. Everybody in this team played incredible. That's why they won the event. But like, the biggest step up to me, like we knew Hydra could fry. We knew Skies was gonna fry. Skies, I believe, was the #1 overall KD at the event. And Hydra, like we knew those three were gonna fry. It's just like Priesta has been missing the last few years, and he was definitely not missing this event.
Mm-hmm. The Val duo turned the COD duo.
Yeah. Also, like a thing I love to personally see, I feel like sometimes, don't get me wrong, the playstyle works where Pred has 22% first blood percentage, Abezy has 30% first blood percentage, and you have these like shotsies that like get really high first blood percentage, and it's like your initial play in search is to have them go find an opening, get the initial kill. But I love to see a team like this in Search and Destroy. Skies was at about 11.5%, Priesta about 12.5%, Hydra about 13.5%, and then Kismet about 16%. They're all above 10% first blood percentage. They're spreading that out, and I feel like that makes you so much better at Search and Destroy because like you don't know where the first blood's coming from. Like normally, like
you're not relying on one person.
One, if it's like Faze, if you see Abezy making a play towards the site, somebody spots him, it's like, hey, they're probably making this play because Abezy's going here and trying to find this opening. Like you don't, it's not like they have a set guy that's like going out to try to make that initial play and get a first blood. Like this team spreads it around. Skies was looking great with the sniper. Like it's a good team. This is a good team.
I would like to see it if they keep it up too.
It's always so hard because like basically if they don't win the next event, it's considered not keeping it up. And it's hard to go back. It's hard to win an event in COD, and it's hard to go back to back.
Yeah. I want to see how the team adjusts to play them.
Yeah, and it seems like they're like there's always a team like this at every event. Every first event of the year, there's always a team that seems a little bit ahead. This team clearly seemed like the team that was a little bit ahead. Man, I don't know. I like this team a lot. I think they're gonna be able to keep it up, and I think they're gonna be like pretty consistently top 4, top 5. I don't know if they'll be able to continue to fry like this because like they basically just hit the go button and was in everybody's face. Like I think people are gonna catch up to that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna be like as dominant as they might have been towards the end of the run. But I don't know. I like it.
I do. I was kind of watching, super happy to see Priesta win it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was as well. Probably the most impressive player on the weekend, to be honest, because like we said, expected everybody else to fry, and like they always do, but Priesta has been the one that's been missing a little bit the last couple of years, and he definitely was not missing.
It was the question mark.
Yeah, and
he delivered.
Yeah, and like look at this team's like map records on this year as well. Like overall, not just this major, they're 12-8 in hardpoint, 9-3 in control, 9-6 in search. Obviously, they're going to be very good in every game mode considering they won the event.
Yeah.
But man, I'm pretty positive on them going forward. We talked about how potentially they could be a team to make a roster change because Wardy was on their bench, and we didn't know if Kismet was going to continue. But Kismet pretty much shut down those rumors considering he won MVP.
Yeah, he's not getting benched now.
We say that, and MVP from last year, Sparta ended up getting benched.
Yeah,
definitely a different situation though. I don't see that happening.
It is different. Yeah.
I like the team overall though. I obviously couldn't have had a better event. They won it.
Not on my radar, but it was on their radar.
And like we said, like we knew this team had the potential. They had we marked them as one of our teams that we weren't maybe picking to win an event, but they had event winning potential because this roster is very talented. maybe our big questions was like where the IGL was going to come from. But like Kismet has experience, Priestess, Guys, Hydra. Between the four of them, it's maybe one of those collective efforts. Kind of like we always say, like OpTic is recently kind of like a collective effort, maybe no clear IGL, but
Yeah.
shoot. And this team has like flexibility to me. There's a lot of talks about meta shifts. Like to me, this team has a lot of flexibility because like Hydra and Kismet are true subs, but I could also see Hydra could pull out an AR if it went to 3 AR. Priesta could definitely pull out a third sub if it went to a 3 sub meta. Like this team has a lot of flexibility if the meta does shift and the Vaznev gets banned, and I don't know, they're very flexible team.
Yeah, definitely. Just good to see those guys win after all the backlash they got last year too with Hydra.
Yeah,
Maybe it was Crim's fault after all.
maybe. I thought that was pretty funny when Hydra did a little shout out. It was like,
Yeah.
I finally proved Crim6 wrong. I thought that was pretty funny.
It's on his mind.
Yeah. Also, Hydra seemed a little nervous in the interview, probably because, like, well, first of all, shoot, if I was speaking my second language up there in front of all those people, in an emotional moment, I'd be pretty nervous. But I thought he handled the interview pretty well because, like, he doesn't really get interviewed very often. Obviously, probably because, I mean, shoot, the dude he just started learning English probably like a few years ago.
Yeah.
I thought he did pretty well up there in the interview, though.
Yeah. It was Crim last year. Basically, did all the interviews, and then what year after that it was like Clay, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
he didn't have to.
And obviously, like, there was question marks when he was coming into the league. Like, would the comms be affected? I mean, like, maybe he doesn't have the best comms because he doesn't speak English like as well. But hey, I mean, clearly it's working because they won the event and he fried. So clearly the comms isn't that much of an issue.
Yeah, I think Parasite said his comms are like got so much better since last year, which is very cool to see.
Yeah. Anything else though? You got anything else on New York besides what a weekend from them? Super impressed. Makes me more excited for this year because like it now puts another team on our radar that we thought was like maybe a fringe event winner, had the talent, but we didn't know if they could put it together. They're now an event winner already. I mean, shoot. Looking at these teams, it's like you go to this bracket and I'm like, I still think like looking at the point standings, if we were to end it today, OpTic would be out of champs and Legion would be in. Obviously, a lot of season left to go, but like, man, looking at the standings, I'm like, now that New York won, they got to be on your radar. I still think Ultra, Faze, Surge, Rokkr, Thieves, even OpTic. I think all those teams could win. Like Breach and Legion are dark horses. Like I'm more excited than ever to see what happens to the next event. We obviously got a little bit of a break here, so no predictions, but
yeah. I just want to say I wasn't familiar with Kismet's game.
little Shaq quote.
Yeah,
dude is a dog. He's a dog.
The bulldog, yeah, for real. Jesus.
A lot of impressive players. Maybe we'll do maybe that's what we'll do next week. I just kind of this isn't like for sure set in stone, but maybe we'll do the player tier list. I wanted to do it following each major.
Okay.
Like where we had players ranked or potentially going into each major, depending on if we had the week break. But like we've got a few weeks as there's like a Christmas break. For the CDL players until like major 2 starts, but maybe we'll do like a tier list post major 1 of the players. And like a lot of times I don't like to overreact. Like last year when LA Thieves won their first event, like Kenny won MVP, but like you didn't want to rank Kenny too high because he had been pretty bad the whole year.
Yeah.
So like based on where we had players to start the year, like all of a sudden if you think like clearly NYSL, you could put every player in S as of right now, but like don't overreact to it if all of a sudden like maybe like Priest is only an A because like he hasn't earned S yet because of how inconsistent he's been for the 3 years leading up to this one good event he had. Like,
your
gap. Don't overreact, but like, yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. We'll brainstorm it. It might not be next week because we've got like a couple week gap here, but like maybe we'll do that. We'll do a player tier list or something, but not sure because we don't have any predictions because we got a little break here for Christmas and stuff.
Yeah.
But you got anything else before we wrap it up?
Not really. I just wasn't really NYSL on my radar of winning, but prove me wrong.
Yeah,
I got nothing.
Yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on the major. Obviously, a pretty wild one. Like Brock said, NYSL maybe not really on the radar of winning. Like we knew that the talent was there, but they came out of nowhere, and that's kind of the beauty of Call of Duty and these games. Also, like something I had to take away from this weekend, Hardpoint was really entertaining. Like comeback
Yeah.
ability is here. Like in Vanguard with how mixy it was and stuff, like it seems like nobody can ever make a comeback. Teams are making some comebacks in this game, which is always exciting because like there's nothing better than like Black Ops 4 Seaside when a team was down 150 points and they'd come back and win. Like OpTic
Yep.
did against Splice in that final, or like Faze just did against Surge. Um, like there's nothing better than that crazy like 150 point hardpoint comeback that is so exciting to watch. So like I'm excited to hopefully see that continue. Like game overall, I'd say obviously just like it is every year with the Call of Duty League, like game, maybe not the best, but somehow they find a way to make it entertaining. I had fun watching, so
Yeah.
looking
Same.
forward to watching more. Like I said, thank you guys so much for 800 subs. That was a cool milestone to hit. We're at about like 815 ish now on the road to 900. So drop a sub if you haven't and you enjoyed already. If on the audio platforms, drop a 5-star review, drop a follow on there. That's gonna do it for this one. We'll see you next week, maybe with the player tier list, maybe something else. We'll kind of brainstorm as the week goes on since we don't have matches to talk about. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.